Are we on?
Yes.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on Chai Time. I hope you all had a wonderful weekend. Hi, Sasha. You're on the other side today.
Yes.
How are you doing?
I am good. How are you?
I'm good. I don't know why I can't seem to hear myself. I don't
Really?
know. Yeah. Maybe a volume a little bit higher. Today I feel a little low.
Hello. Is this good?
That's good. How was your weekend?
It was good. It was busy. The kids are home. Summer has started.
Yes.
Every day is something or the other.
I know.
Mama needs some rest. I need to go back to Napa. Have a vacation.
I know. Man, June is here. I can't believe it.
I know.
Already.
It's flying by really quickly.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you have a packed summer months
I do.
down the road
Yes.
with the kids and all, which is good because you keep them busy.
Yeah, I mean, they wake up in the morning, as I was saying, the first thing that comes out of their mouth is like, I'm bored. It's like, at least get off the bed. Have some breakfast.
Tishya's laughing here.
She's like, oh, I'm not looking forward to that.
I mean, if I had it my way, I would also be in bed asking my parents for food,
Yeah.
but I can't.
Same. Yeah.
Anyways, so getting back to our show this morning, month of June is also Pride Month. So it's when the world's LGBTQ communities come together and celebrate the freedom to be themselves. Pride gatherings are rooted in the arduous history of minority groups who have struggled for decades to overcome prejudice and be accepted for who they are. To learn about and celebrate the LGBTQ+ community is my guest, Tishya Bedi, Director of Outreach and Education from Daya Houston, who needs no introduction. Daya is a Houston-based nonprofit organization whose mission is to empower South Asian survivors of sexual and domestic violence through culturally specific services. So, ladies, let's kick off Pride Month.
It is always such a pleasure to be here with you ladies because we have the most wonderful conversations, and it's so great that y'all offer this platform to Daya each and every month, and we get to have these conversations together.
Yeah, and we are grateful to y'all for everything that y'all do for the community. It means a lot. So, getting us be part of that and be part of Daya it really means a lot to us. So we appreciate you all.
We appreciate community partners
There's so much
like
love
y'all.
in here.
Today's session is on love.
Right, exactly. I agree. So, Tishya, let's begin with what is Pride Month and why is it celebrated in the month of June?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So Pride Month is a month-long celebration. As you mentioned in the introduction, it is a month-long celebration where, honestly, the entire world comes together to celebrate the trials and the tribulations of the LGBTQ+ community and, the movements that they've also made, with the gay rights, like gay marriage being legalized. So it's just a celebration of that. Bringing the community together to support each other. And it's also to honor, back in actually 1969, I think it was like June 28th, there was in New York at the Stonewall Inn, which was a gay bar. The police actually raided the bar, and it was a very sort of violent, interaction amongst the patrons who were at the bar. And the police, and so starting then, there were 6 days of constant protests against, the police and just the government itself as to why, there's so much violence towards the LGBTQ community. So, back in that day, I don't think that that's when the gay rights movement started, but that was sort of the catalyst to this, very long journey that we've, been on. And so back in the day, you wouldn't have such a safe community. Like, for example, in Montrose, you have rows and rows of gay bars that are heavily protected by the police and by the community. And so back in the day, you would only have like one or two safe spaces to be yourself because you weren't publicly allowed to be who you were. And so that's why they were gathering at the Stonewall Inn. And, each year we celebrate Pride Month at the, in June. The last weekend of June is the Pride Parade. And it's to sort of honor that initial movement of, that Stonewall riot.
Yeah, that's good to know. Thanks for sharing. I mean, we always wonder, right? Like, why a specific month or what is the reason? So thanks for sharing that with us.
Of course.
So in Canada, there's a huge parade, like the Pride Parade. And when I was there, I didn't know a lot about, Pride Month. I didn't really educate myself about that. So in my mind, it was when I watch it on TV and it's all in the news and everything, and I see people, in my mind, it was like, it's only the gay and lesbians, celebrating. And I always wondered, like, can we all go in there and celebrate with them? And would that be kind of, weird? Yeah. So now that, like, it's so widespread, so do you think, like, everyone can go and celebrate Pride Month or should go and celebrate Pride Month?
Lynn, I had like very similar feelings when I actually went into college because that was the first time I really had heard of the Pride Parade.
Right.
And my friends I know in college were like, Tish, like, come. I know you're like usually in Dallas with your parents over the summer, but if you can, like, come into town and we'll go, together.
Yeah.
And so I had certain hesitations initially as well because back in the day, I say back in the day, this was 2014, 2015, I was still not as accustomed to the idea of me attending Pride because I thought it was an event just for people in that community.
Correct.
And also, my friends affirmed me that they were like, you can come, it's open to anyone. But then I had this other stigma in my head, which I was like, what if somebody sees me there and thinks that I am part of the community? Which was like, I think, there's like so many growing lessons over there, which is like, first of all, even if I were part of that community, how would that matter to anyone else? And second of all, like, it is open to everyone and anyone because I think it's more of a celebration of community, and it heavily focuses on the LGBTQ community, but it also focuses on other issues such as, recently I actually read that the Black Lives Matter protests actually were able to happen because of the Stonewall riots and these like pride parades. Like, that was when the first like sort of protest movement began. And so it is a community event. Everybody can come no matter what your background is, what you identify as, whether you're part of the community or not. It's actually turned into such a beautiful event, which happens every year. And it's so amazing to see organizations also come out and support because in the past, you wouldn't see as many, companies and organizations coming out because it was sort of trivial to be there as the company, and people like, companies and businesses would lose business because they were in support of, gay rights. So now, everyone is coming out and supporting, and to like, answer your question, anyone can attend.
Yeah.
And it's actually highly encouraged that you do because it shows your support for this very vulnerable community, and it shows that you are there no matter what, and you are there no matter what people say or think about the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, and it's a fun event. Like, it's colorful, but it's fun. Like, everyone is enjoying themselves. And even I see police officers in there. They're like joining in and, like just getting into the celebration. So that is, it's such a good...
I would love to go to that. I think that would be so much fun to see and experience.
I think y'all really should.
So when is it in Houston, by the way?
It is actually the last Saturday. I think it's like June 25th.
Okay.
And there's a festival in the morning, right?
Okay.
And so that's where you can go from booth to booth, like businesses in the area also open up. You'll see I have never seen that many colors in one single area, and we're South Asian, so I see a lot of colors.
Right.
But every single, restaurant, bar in the vicinity, they've like, decorated their interiors and exteriors.
It's a party street.
You see, newborn children in like rainbow onesies to like 80, 90-year-old people in their like rainbows in their wheelchairs. And so it's just like every age, every color, every just ethnicity is there. And it's just such a fun celebration.
Yeah, definitely. We should try and go for
that would be really fun.
Go for the
see,
parade. Yeah, it will be fun.
Oh my! Have y'all ever been to one?
No.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I'm like more intrigued to go.
I think if you can't this year, of course next year, but really do plan on going. Because at first I think a lot of people they do get a little rowdy afterwards, but the parade is so beautiful, and just to watch that like throughout downtown Houston I think it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking you can strike so many conversations with so many interesting people, that you don't even, you can learn so much from them, and, some of the struggles, their challenges that they're going through. Yeah. So it's not just having fun and enjoying the parade, but at the same time learning, right?
Growing.
Yeah, exactly.
On that same page, when I was in college, I actually interned under the first transgender judge in the world, and her name is Phyllis Fry, and she practices in Houston. And so I was interning under her for like around 3 weeks, and I got to just learn about her and her journey. Yeah. And her being a transgender woman who is also like lesbian was a huge deal, right? Back in the day, because she's been practicing for like 40 something years now. And so she was telling me that even within like the parade itself, like, right, not even the parade, the movement itself, it's like LGBT, the T was added later. And so what she told me was that back in the day, transgender folks weren't really even accepted into the LGBT community. This was like an added effort that even she would go out in Montrose back in the day when it wasn't even Montrose. Yeah. And she would walk the parade confidently. And learning that, you just mentioned, like, learning about people's struggles and what they've been through, it was just such a, chilling story that, like, just even 20, 30 years ago, this existed, that transgender people weren't a part of that community. And so, I don't know, you telling me that, like, talking to people, learning their stories just reminded me of that story. And it's a constant reminder that, like, every single person within that community has faced some sort of struggle. Yeah. Whether large or big.
They say everyone has a story, right? Has a story to tell. So, that's why, like, having this parade, many people think, oh, it's just a fun party and there's just going to be trouble or whatever. Mm-hmm. But not realizing that it's more than just a party. Yeah. And just meeting people, talking to them, getting to know them, it just, strikes. It just changes our perspective on things as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Learning new things every day.
They not only wear their colors with pride, but also their battle scars with pride.
Yes, that's beautiful. That's amazing. That's beautiful. Yeah. So, Tishya, tell me, what is the difference between sexual orientation and gender identity?
This is a wonderful question because
it's a lot of confusion with that.
Yeah, and I actually didn't even learn until I was a women's studies major in college, and so in that we had to take. I think there was an entire semester where I took classes on gender, sexuality, and everything. And so think about it this way. So when you think of LGBT, L is lesbian, B bi, G gay, then there's trans, which is the only gender identity in that sexual orientation sort of acronym. And so gender is, like your gender identity is yourself. That's who you are internally. Like, it's very binary to think like you look at a person, that's a female, that's a male. But, we know that there's so many more identities than that. Right. So my gender identity is a straight woman and my sexual orientation is straight. I am a woman, so that's my gender identity. But when you think of, for example, the judge that I just spoke about, you know, biologically, she was born male, but her gender identity is female, and her sexual orientation is lesbian. And so sexual orientation is your preference. And a lot of people think that that's, once again, very binary, that you're attracted to men or, you know, women. There are orientations like asexuality, where like you don't necessarily even want to have a romantic partner. So the biggest difference is that gender identity is self, and sexual orientation is sort of like a view on others, like what your preference.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good to know. So, you know, now that nowadays we are all, you know, we talk a lot more. We're very open about, you know, the LGBTQ community. And many people who are watching us right now on Facebook or listening to us on radio must be saying, why is Tishya from Daya? And why is Lynn and Sasha from Chai Time doing the show? Because they are straight. You know, what is the reason? And I think like it is, the reason is because we want to support the community. And we want to talk about it, normalize it, right? So why do you think, in your opinion, it is important for us to become allies for the community?
You know, it's because when you look at the, you know, spectrum of things, right, we are, although we are, you know, brown women, we are susceptible to violence, but compared to an even further minority group, we aren't susceptible to the violence that they are susceptible to, right? So if we have the privilege and the opportunity to speak up about issues that won't necessarily even come back to target us, and we raise our voices, we stand up to, like, you know, the discrimination and to the violence against the LGBTQ community, there's nothing to lose for us, right? And there's everything to gain for them.
Yeah.
And so using your privilege, using your voice to sort of uplift that community without, you know, necessarily putting yourself in danger is like something that we have for ourselves. And so the more we uplift, the more we talk about it, like right now, the more we normalize it, as you just said, like the more it doesn't become a taboo. Because I think even still, if I talk to like my distant family about like gay rights, they're probably going to be like, oh my gosh, why is she even like bringing this up at the dinner table? But like, you know, within my own family, like my parents, they're like, oh yeah, okay, this is something she normally talks about. And I've also seen like changes within, you know, my own, like my parents' friends, because they sometimes tune in as well. If you're watching, hi. They sometimes tune into these, you know, shows as well. And they've learned a lot, like, in our different, like, sessions. So then they are able to have that conversation with their families. And it's just this, like, it just is this, like, positive, I don't even know what the word is, like, this positive wave that just spreads throughout communities. And that we're really able to better support, you know, the LGBTQ community as well.
Yeah, so because, you know, on Chai Time Show, we have had the gay couple, Parag and Vaibhav, here on the show. We've also spoken to Desi Rainbow Allies, Aruna Rao, I love her. And, you know, we, those people are basically part of it. They're part of the LGBTQ community. So to talk to them and for them to give their perspective and share their story, their journey is important. But what the two of us are doing, the, you know, Daya, Chai Time, is also equally important.
Absolutely.
Because, like, we are not going through that journey. Our kids are not, you know, we are not experiencing that firsthand. But at the same time, and I remember Aruna saying that to be an ally is so important. To be that voice is so important. So, you know, just to let our listeners know, the reason why we want to do this is because we want everyone in the community itself to be together. Right. You know, there are so many, we are always supporting so many organizations, like so many of the nonprofits and all, but this is as important an organization, you know, like supporting people and all that.
Absolutely.
As others, I would think, right?
And I think it becomes personal. That I don't know about you, but you said it so well and eloquently that like we're not part of this community. We're not firsthand, watching someone in our lives going through this. But, when I hear a story about violence against, somebody in the community, I take it personally because I think it's like our responsibility as, within this, as somebody who lives in this society to ensure that no one goes through violence, that no one has to face violence just for existing and liking people and being somebody who they, being themselves.
Yeah.
And so I think it is our responsibility as allies to continue this conversation and to just have them in general.
Yeah, so we keep saying allies. What is an ally?
Ally.
For people who might be wondering, okay, what is the word? What is ally?
Well, an ally, I love to explain it like this. Like, you're getting ready to go out with someone and like, you're getting ready for dinner.
Okay.
And like your partner or like your family members are like, oh my gosh, you look amazing. And you feel so much better, right? Like, it is like we're people's hype men per se, right? We are people, allies are people who support, advocate for, and just in general just are there for, we support the cause and then we support the people as well. So allies are people that just definitely, it's like it's a community of people that just support you overall. I don't even know how else to phrase it.
I think that was perfectly said.
Yeah, exactly. So Tishya, Pride Month has taken on a grander form now, right? Mm-hmm. So what purpose does Pride Month have in today's society?
I think it's all the things that we've, talked about till now. I am just so grateful as to how large this, parade has gotten because it shows how much more our community is supporting the LGBTQ community. So I think the purpose it serves is to, first of all, honor the way in which, the Stonewall riots happened, and it really just sheds light on how much suffering, LGBTQ folks had to go through in order to even gain the rights that they have, which is crazy that gay marriage was only legalized so recently.
Yeah.
This protest has been happening for so long, but it has gotten much larger, the celebrations, right? And I think it just shows, in my own experience, I don't even know, I haven't read any research as to like how much they've expanded, but I just think it's because more and more people are becoming accustomed to the idea that you don't have to be binary. If you go online and watch like any show on Netflix or Hulu, there's going to be an aspect of a, gay couple on there. Yeah. There's going to be folks on there who are trans. And so that, that movement itself has like normalized the idea of LGBTQ folks in our community. And so I think the purpose that it serves is it shows the community itself where more and more people support you, more and more people love you. And I think it also shows the world that like if you're sitting and still thinking that, being gay or being lesbian is wrong, it's showing the world that like you are not part of this huge group that is congregating in downtown Houston from like 9 a.m. to like 9 p.m. It's showing the world that we have come together and that we do support this community no matter what happens.
Yeah. So there are a lot of misconceptions when it comes to the LGBTQ community. It's a mouthful. So what are some of the misconceptions in general? And then I also want to touch on within the South Asian community.
Yeah. So in general, what I've heard a lot is that it's just a phase. So when young kids are, telling their parents, or their friends or family that they are, they don't feel the same as other kids maybe do. That a young boy doesn't want to go on a date with a girl like the young boy wants to go on a date with, a boy. And so parents saying it's just a phase, or the community saying it's just a phase, because like research has really shown that like younger kids are more likely to sort of quote unquote come out than like the older kids are or like adults are. And so one of the biggest like misconception is that it's a phase. And you know what? It could be. There are people out there who think that, you know, they are a certain, you know, sexual orientation and they realize that that's not, you know, who they are. But the other misconception is that it is a mental problem. I've heard that as well, that there's something wrong with this person and that's why they are who they are. And we can totally continue this conversation in a second. Yeah.
I was just looking at you and listening to you. Sorry, Sasha. Okay, let's go on a quick break. And when we get back, we will continue our conversation with Tishya Bedi from Daya, Houston. Topic of the day is Pride Month. And this is Chai Time on 99.5 FM.
0.5 FM.
Welcome back to Chai Time on 99.5 FM. We are in conversation with Tishya Bedi from Daya, Houston, and we are celebrating Pride Month together. I love it.
Yes, I love it too.
It's been such a great conversation. And before we went on break, we were talking about the misconceptions. So let's continue with that.
So just to recap, you know, so one of the biggest misconceptions when people are younger or not even younger is that it's just a phase. The second misconception is that there's something mentally wrong with that person, because that is not true. That is who they are. That is how they were born, and you have to accept it. And then another misconception is that like this is so far beyond me because I've heard this before, is that like it can transfer like that I like if you hang out in a group of like LGBTQ folks, that like you also will become, you know, part of that community, which is like, maybe if that is happening, it's because your child or you or you know, you already had those feelings. Right. And so those are some of the, and also because of you know, things like, for example, the AIDS epidemic, where there wasn't much, you know, education on proper, just, you know, I guess like how to properly have, you know, like physical relations, shall I say. Because of just that epidemic, it also exists that like, oh yeah, like every gay man might carry AIDS, or every, you know, lesbian woman might, or lesbian person might be carrying like certain STIs or STDs.
Correct.
So there are also those misconceptions that, you know, exist. And I think the way that we can sort of also recognize that we internally also all used to have or still have just these like misconceptions, but that I want to say that it's not misconceptions, it's just like lack of education as well, because like I used to think certain things, and then when I got to college and I was like learning about, you know, just the LGBTQ community, there were so many like prior ideas that I had that were just debunked, you know, these like myths that were in my brain that just completely were washed away. So, you know, educate yourself really before thinking that like you know everything about the community, because it's such a learning process.
Yeah, and it's okay to ask. I mean, if you don't know, just ask the question, right? It's not going to be, you won't be offending anybody, but it's more like they will answer you, and you'll get your answers. So I think that's important.
Absolutely.
Just don't assume things, right? And so what about within the South Asian? Would that be the same thing within the community itself?
You know, when you bring in the cultural nuances and the family and the community, things really do get more difficult. Yeah. I will be the first to say that, you know, when we work with folks that are South Asian and a part of the community, you know, the first thing, that idea of like, oh, this is just a phase, it is so much more than that for South Asian kids and people, because then people have brought in like religious, practices in order to like reform that person, because they'll send them away to like camps for days and days where they are, sort of brainwashed with like religious texts that, it is not okay to be gay. It's not okay to be this person. And so that tends to happen. Families actually disown their, family members if they come out to them. The other things is that even when your parents or you have accepted your own child to be in the community, that doesn't mean your extended family will. That doesn't mean that your family friends will. Yeah. And so, in January, we actually had a Daya webinar where there was a mother of a trans child on having a conversation with us. And she was explaining so beautifully that she faced so many internal turmoils when her child came out to her as trans, and that, that she was facing. But she said that what she did was, in that moment, instead of asking questions, because the kid must be confused themselves in that moment, not confused, like very nervous, instead of reacting angrily, she took a step back, said, "I love you. I made a promise when I gave birth to you that I would protect you unconditionally. I just need a moment to process, and we'll have a conversation." And so she did that. And now, like, that, it made me cry initially when I heard it, because it's so beautiful. That's what every parent says, right? Is like, I will love you unconditionally no matter what, until you come out, right? Then,
the conditions come out.
Yeah. Then, in this case, when you hear about, like, South Asian mothers having that, like, protective instinct. And so I also asked her, I was like, how do you face people not using your child's proper pronouns, or how do you face family or family friends that don't accept, your child? And she said, like, she cut them off. She cut them off. So it's not only difficult for, the person coming out, even for the family to, sort of have to go through that within our own community. I don't see that happening much outside of our community.
Yeah.
And then one other thing that I'll add to this is, like, what she said was so beautiful. She said that South Asian parents like the idea of their kids more than the kid itself. And so that has stuck with me for so long.
Wow.
Yeah. I have no words.
It is, yeah, definitely. And, you're so right when it comes to the South Asian community. There is the lack of acceptance, I think. Still, we are far behind. Yeah. And, I still keep in touch with Vaibhav and Parag. And Vaibhav tells me, like, during COVID time, he actually helped a lot of youths, a lot of kids in India, because they would talk to him via internet and, via, like, just emailing him or anything, and just saying, how do I come out? Or, things like that, like their concerns and all. And it's so great that being here in the U.S. but helping kids in India, youths in India, it's such a great thing, because you're in the States I would say it's a lot easier, but places like India, Pakistan, how do they cope with that, right?
So, oh my gosh, there's, like, first of all, like, legally,
right,
it's not even allowed in most places, and just family wise, and actually, go on. I was going to add something, but I was like, I lost my train of thought.
Okay, if it comes back, just grab the mic.
Will do.
Okay. So, Tishya, tell me, in your opinion, do you see more or less, like, because we are talking about acceptance, right? So do you see more or less acceptance of LGBTQ in the South Asian community?
There's far less acceptance, for sure. And, Daya, we were working tirelessly to normalize. We were having webinars, we're having events, we're partnering with organizations that mainly support LGBTQ folks.
Correct.
And so there is less acceptance, and we see that. We see that in the statistics that exist, that South Asian kids are less likely to reveal their true identity to their friends and family. Well, friends, it's probably like much higher, but like family and extended family, the statistics show that they don't reveal who they are. And once they do that, you know, it actually leads to this like cycle of violence as well, is because you're not able to share with your family what you're going through. And so I guess here's what happens. Like, you're not able to show your family who you are. And then you know, are sort of navigating this newfound independence by yourself out in the community. You're, you know, dating people. In dating people, you don't see red flags because you're not really revealing to people that you're seeing this person. So then you're sort of normalizing maybe any red flags that you are facing. So then that cycle of violence begins within that relationship. So that, you know, also very heavily exists within the South Asian LGBTQ community. So yeah, when acceptance goes up, violence will also go down.
And how can we encourage the youths?
You know, it starts with support. It really starts with support at a very young age. Having conversations, you know, Sasha, you just mentioned that on Netflix now there are kids, like TV shows and movies in which they show a same-sex couple. They show, you know, folks with different identities. And so, like, letting them watch that, normalizing that, you know, I know when I was younger, sometimes my parents would be like, you don't need to watch this show. But then they realize, they're like, she's going to see those things every day in real life. So, like, let her. So it starts out with, like, letting your kids, exposing them to the world, you know, in a very healthy way. Then comes, you know, supporting them in other ways as to, like, let them be educated in the way that they would want to be. If they want to sort of go attend events that are happening around the community in which they do talk about LGBTQ community, let them. Let your child do what they want to do and let them learn in the way that they want to. And if they are to come out to you, I would highly recommend, you know, you take the approach that our wonderful, like, you know, Rainbow Mother had taken, is to, first of all, like, just make sure that your child knows that you love them, because also suicide rates are very high amongst South Asian LGBTQ folks at, you know, a young age once they aren't accepted. So, like, assuring them that, like, they are okay, that you love them. Encouraging them to participate in activities that they want to participate in. So, like, if your kid wants to go to the Pride Parade, let them go to the Pride Parade, because, you know, you're sort of allowing them to have that community. And then us as society, we just need to encourage South Asian kids to, you know, be who they are. You don't need to tell them, like, what will people think. You need to, you know, let them be who they are. Like, if your kid has come out to you, you don't request them to not be that way around your family, friends. You know, allow them to be who they are, and you protect them in that way. So I think there are, like, a lot of measures. Just like you would just think of it as, like, a normal, not a normal, like a usual, like, run-of-the-mill child, right? Like, you let them be who they are. You let them do what they want. You protect them no matter what. So just the same things, just with maybe a little more, like, power. That, like, don't say that about my kid.
So how can we build an atmosphere of inclusion regardless of our personal or religious views?
Ooh. This is a great question, because I think we're still figuring that out, especially in our community. You see it a lot also, like, outside of our community, that people use religion to sort of say that this is wrong, this is right. I think for us, it really has to start with conversations, and you have to meet people where they are at, because I am that type of person that I really want to drill something in someone's brain if they don't agree with me. Opinions are different, but when I statistically know something, I want that person, I will be like, Lynn, you need to listen to me.
Right.
But you have to meet people where they're at. And so talking about these things, like educating them, using real life examples, that really works for us at Daya. Is like, people think that things are just hypotheticals, but when you tell them, like, hey, one of our clients went through this, that really like sets the tone of like seriousness and like for the other person to understand that this is real. And then for religious views, you know, I think more and more people, as they're having these conversations, will sort of take that back to their certain religious center as well. Maybe not. This is one of those things that, like, I don't even personally know how we can, you know, sort of change the minds of those who are faith leaders. But we do have a lot of great faith leaders around Houston who attend our webinars. So I'm just really hoping that they are able to have these like conversations with their parents or their, you know, youth that attend religious, you know, meetings. But I think personally what we can do is, as I've answered in other questions, is just have that conversation, always be open, always, you know, show love, because when someone enters a religious center, like people always preach about like, you know, acceptance and love and guidance, that like God will love you no matter who you are. And so practicing what you preach, really.
Yeah.
And so I think those things could really create a great environment. We're still really figuring this out ourselves.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that I don't have this
No, it's okay.
platinum answer as to how we can.
We are all learning. We all go through. You're
But I
going
think-
through the same, you know. So
I think just having a conversation, standing up. If you hear somebody saying something controversial, like really like standing up and using your voice to protect that community as well, even though it might be inappropriate to have it within the religious, you know, center, you could step out and have that conversation.
Yeah, I want to share this story actually. So when I was in, you know, I'm born and brought up in India, and I used to work part time in a clothing store, and one of my coworker. I mean, at that time I didn't even know gay, lesbian, nothing. I was probably like 16 or 17 years old, and I remember like we girls and, you know, and him, we were all like standing and doing our work. And this guy walks by us, right? And he's really handsome. And we're like, oh my God, he's so good looking. Yeah. And so the gay guy goes, yeah, he is so good looking. But it didn't really like, we were not like, oh my God, oh, ew, why are you saying that? But we were giving high fives.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like sometimes I think it's what we have in our minds or what we are told by people that, you know, something is wrong with them. Yeah. So I think like if like you were saying about children, like, you know, let the children explore, let them, because sometimes when we are trying to drill something into them, then they have those misconceptions. So even in those days, I mean, you know, I'm not giving my age out, but but even then, for us, it was like a normal thing. We were just giving a high five and saying, "Oh, you find him cute too. That's great, right?"
Of course.
And even with when Vaibhav was talking about his grandma, his mom was worried that his grandma would be in a shock when he came out. But his grandma accepted it. Like she was more like she understood it. She got it. So for us to think like sometimes the older generation or they will not understand is so wrong.
It's wrong. I mean, it's wrong. It's predominantly wrong because we do have cases like that.
Yeah, of course.
But it's just it's crazy because that unconditional love we always talk about is, you know, you said is so conditional sometimes. And so it's really beautiful to hear stories like that.
Yeah, this just came back. I just started thinking about him and I found that, we found that so cute, you know. We didn't go into, like, deep into it.
Like, why is he high-fiving, blah, blah, blah.
There were no questions asked.
Sometimes that's the best way to be,
right?
Is like, you don't ask a person why they're wearing something, so why do you ask a person why they like something? Like,
exactly. Normalize conversations. So how is Daya working towards supporting the LGBTQ community?
So we actually, you know, since January have had so many webinars and like special events that are just surrounded by uplifting the LGBTQ community. So we're really we're trying to be out there in the community saying that we love you, we support you. Daya is somewhere you can come, because like people think of, you know, domestic violence or sexual assault as very like binary, that like man to woman. It's not. It's, you know, it's everybody can be abusive. So we try to let, you know, the community know that same-sex violence is all, like, we work with them, and that our doors are open to you no matter what.
Yeah.
So we're also developing trainings that, you know, organizations can invite us in. So hopefully some of the, you know, faith leaders and religious, you know, centers can bring us in to talk about, you know, just sexuality as a whole. And we're trying to have conversations, and you guys are helping us out so much.
So Tishya, how are you planning to celebrate Pride Month?
Oh my gosh. So I will actually be walking in the parade as well.
Okay.
With we have community partners such as like the Houston Area Women's Center Young Leaders, and so I am a part of that organization. So we will be walking in the parade, and then after that, I know my girlfriends want to go karaoke, so we will be doing that. But I will definitely be out there supporting, you know, the small vendors, like, you know, gay-owned, LGBTQ-owned vendors that are also at the festival, and just like uplifting their work and really just trying to be present with the community itself.
That's wonderful. That's so great. Yeah.
I'll take a lot of pictures to show you.
Yeah, if we don't
Can't
make it,
wait.
please do.
I will. I need to find something very rainbow-esque. My closet is very black and white.
You know, I just wanted to share this, that I shop a lot at Amazon, and so I've been shopping through Amazon Smile, and I have been supporting Daya. So people who don't know about Amazon Smile, it's basically a percentage, right, goes towards the charity that you choose. But for this month, I have chosen Desi Rainbow Allies.
I love that.
just to celebrate Pride Month.
I didn't even
So
know.
I just want to let people know that, you know, a way to do that, to support your charity. You don't have to, you know, stick to one. You can always change it up. But we all shop at Amazon, and this is such a wonderful way, I think, to give back.
Absolutely.
So just, you know, want to share and let people know that, you know, if you... I'm sure everyone are Prime members or just Amazon members, but you can go through Amazon Smile, choose your charity, and Amazon will give a percentage of your sales. So it's nothing extra coming out of your pocket, but Amazon is contributing towards the charities.
I didn't even know that. Oh my gosh. I didn't know I knew about Amazon Smile, but I didn't know Daya or like Desi Rainbows were.
Yes, so Daya. There's a lot of organizations if you go out there, and Daya has always been very close to my heart. So I've continued to be doing that, and this time because, you know, just to celebrate Pride Month and reaching out to people and telling people, like, you know, let's support the LGBTQ community together. So
Absolutely. I need to go home and turn that on immediately. No, but it's so wonderful. Yeah, that's the other thing, is just like what we can do as a community right now today is to support organizations that heavily support the LGBTQ community, because they are doing all this work with like not that much funding, and so anything we can do, you know, to help, we should. And
yes, absolutely. I mean, we always wonder how we can give back, right? In what way or form. Many times, like in my situation, I would love to volunteer my time, but I'm just, because of work and everything else, I cannot. But I try and find ways. So I just want to let people know that there are ways. Everything is possible. Nothing is impossible. So find the ways that you can. And, you know, it's just so fulfilling. It's a fulfillment. So in a little way, we are giving back to organizations that are doing such great work. Yeah.
You're so wonderful. Both of you are just so great.
So before we wrap up, any cool events to look out for?
I was just actually going to mention the Pride Parade to make sure to, like, if you can make it out. I know that there is a surge, with the virus again. So I know that some people are uncomfortable going in person. But the other thing is just supporting organizations and looking out for events that they're hosting this month, because Daya, right now we don't have anything planned. We're taking just a few weeks off from like hosting events, but I would definitely recommend checking out the parade, checking out other organizations' events that are being held throughout Houston in the next few weeks.
Cool. And any closing remarks before we wrap up?
I mean, I would just say I love everyone. Life is honestly very short to have any sort of animosity towards a certain person or a certain group of people. Yeah. So just love them. You never know who in your own family might, be going through certain situations. So just, lead life with love.
Yeah.
Yes, and openness.
Yeah, openness. Exactly. Love is love. Yeah. So no matter what, right?
And if you listen through this, you're already, having conversations with us.
Yes. True. Thank you so much, Tishya, for joining us this morning. It was such a fun conversation. I mean, we've really hit a lot of, we discussed a lot of things, and I think even answering a lot of the questions that many of us have, and, for you navigating those answers and telling us, we appreciate, and we appreciate all of y'all, that whatever Daya is doing, it's not only about supporting the survivors and all, but even getting out of your comfort zone and doing things like this. So bringing out important topics.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate all of y'all.
Daya. We love y'all, and we'll be here again next one.
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into Chai Time. We are signing off today. We'll see you again, same time, same week, next week. Signing off. This is Chai Time, 99.5 FM.